my name's Kat Simmons. My student number is 101209214. And today I'm just going to do a extremely simple functionality for saving and loading the position of our little raccoon here. So this is, it's going to work when we click a button. It's going to save the position of the character, and then I could walk somewhere else, and then when I click load, it will load me back there. And then what we'll do is make sure that it loads as soon as you start up, so when you save the game and leave, when you come back you'll be in the same position. So this is all through a really simple script that we're going to make. So I'm going to go create C# script, and we'll call it player position saver. The way that I'm going to write this will be really easily editable, so that you can use it to change the position of anything in the scene. But I'm using it just for the player at the moment, just for simplicity's sake, so that we can have some really clear variable names. So the way that we are going to save all of our data in our game is using PlayerPrefs. The variables we're going to need are a public GameObject, which we'll just call player for now, but if you wanted to change this to save the position of anything, then that's why I've made it a GameObject and not a player controller, or a player character controller object. We will need a vector3, which is going to be the position that we're going to save. That can be private because no one else really needs to know about that. We can just get that from the player game object, and then we don't need to edit it. And then a string, which we're going to use for saving this data. So let's start with our save function. So the first thing we'll do when we hit save is we want to get that position variable that we made, just getting auto-corrected, and just put our player's current position in the scene into that position. And now this is where the kind of magic happens, where we make our magic new string. Append is just putting something on the end of a string. So we're going to append each of the position variables to the string that we've made. We're also going to append it with spaces in between them. You'll see why later. So as you can see, I've appended the X position, a space, the Y position, a space, and the Z position. And then I'm going to take that player position thing, which is a string builder, and then I'm going to put it into our normal private string. That's what PlayerPrefs is going to use to save it on the player's computer, which today will be obviously just my computer. But what I've done in this line is just, I've made a string in PlayerPrefs, and I've added to that string the name of the current active scene that we're in, so the level that we're in, and player position, and this string that we made, which is the position of the player. So that's our save position function done. And then we're going to do a load position. This is going to return a vector3. As you might expect, it's returning our position of our player. We'll call this load position to be very clear. Doing the same thing, except I'm getting a string instead of setting one. So we're saying I'm in this scene. What was the player's position last time I was in this scene? Now what I need to do is to make an array of strings, which is how we're going to split up all that data, because right now it just looks like one sentence with the computer doesn't know what the difference is between the X position number and the Y position number. But that's why we put the spaces in between them. So we're going to use that space in order to split up the values, and to do that we will use the split function. Is extraordinarily useful. So we now have an array of values that are strings, that are each of these values that we popped in there before. And now we will make our position that we're going to return. Alright, so we've got our save function and our load function. You might notice that load position doesn't actually move the player anywhere. So just the very last thing we're going to do is put a tiny little function in here, set loaded position, and then walk somewhere else, and when I hit the load button I'll be kind of transported back. Perfect, that's exactly what I wanted. So the last thing I'd want to do here is make sure that when I start the scene that I immediately get jumped into where I last saved. So I am back in my player position saver script that I made earlier, and I'm just going to write start. It's going to get auto filled out for me there. So whenever this script starts, I would like it to set this. So I've got a convenient function that already does it, so I'll just write set loaded position there, and I expect that when I press play now, it's going to transport me back to that position that I saved for myself before. So I'm over here now. Perfect. That's exactly what I expected to happen. I hope this has been helpful, and have a great week.